Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. This episode is the debrief for Burnley 1, Brighton 1. And it's another week, another goalkeeping error, another missed opportunity, and another step closer to relegation, it seems. With me, Chris Borden, Justin Connolly, Paul Woodhouse. I'm Andrew Greaves. Let's get straight into it, Justin. We were quite upbeat, weirdly, on Friday's podcast, weren't we? We were kind of going, look, you know, the table's still there. It's still kind of doable. And I guess it still is doable. You know, point for us, point for Forest. But you get the feeling that with every game we shoot ourselves in the foot, every game we don't take as opportunities, you know, the footballing gods to a certain extent, we'll come on to refereeing in a bit, are kind of serving up opportunities for us. And we're just letting them pass us by, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, it's remarkable, really, that we're still in this. Obviously, without the points deductions, we'd be well out of it by now. But it's amazing that, I mean, how many points have we got now? I can't remember, but it's not 20 yet, is it? We've got. Well, are we on 17, 18? But we're not. But even now, with 5 games to go, it's still not mathematically impossible for us to stay up, which is just like ludicrous, isn't it, when you think about it? Yeah. I was trying to work out the other day how many points you could potentially stay up with, and it's going to be a record, isn't it, for sure this season? Yeah.
I mean, we're on 20 points. We have hit the 20-point mark.
Have we hit the 20-point mark?
We've hit the 20-point mark. Forest are on 26 points in 17. Luton on 25. So we've inched towards 20 points. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be one team might stay up with, you know, quite a bit under 30.
Yeah, and it's not going to be us, is it? Let's be honest. But, you know, while we're still in it, we've still got to keep fighting for it. I mean, I thought Saturday's game was particularly depressing and particularly disappointing. I mean, I thought it was two really poor teams playing really badly and a really badly refereed game. So, and the weather was appalling as well. Like, if you'd asked me my opinion of it as I was walking up Manchester Road about 5:15 in the pissing rain on Saturday evening, I probably would have been less charitable than I am now. Fortunately, some time has passed and I've sort of thawed out and dried out since then. So I'm able to see a few positives, like we always do in these games. But it's getting too late in the day for it to just be positives that you take out of games and not points, isn't it? Far too late in the day. So yeah, I mean, I have to say, this season, it's partly down to the refereeing and the VAR stuff, but I am not enjoying watching Premier League football. And I'll be honest with you, if Saturday's game is anything to go by, and they say the Premier League is the greatest football league in the world, I am glad I am not following a team out of any of the other leagues, because I'd be suicidal by now.
Well, we will come on to a team in another league in just a little bit, because we're going to talk a little bit at the end about Bayer Leverkusen and a certain Mr. Nathan Tella. But Chris, I mean, Justin's not far off the mark. It was, you know, aside from the odd flash, a pretty bog standard game of football, weren't it? It was pretty dire from both sides.
Well, yeah, we keep saying it, you know, every week. You know, it's sort of a prime time to play X team. You know, you're playing Wolves without a centre forward of note, and you know, you're playing Brighton, who are just sort of, the season's just sort of petering out. Really, you know, it's a strange. You know, they've obviously had that. They coped better with Europa League football than we did. Managed the schedule better, and you know, they're on target to maybe finish top 10 again, which would be fabulous. But it's just sort of dying a death, and they're wondering whether De Zerbi's staying put, etc. And so it's probably a bit of uncertainty there. But yeah, again, it's like, was it that sideshow Bob in The Simpsons when he keeps stepping on the rakes and they're hitting him in the face? You know, we turn around and stand on another and bang, and that just seems to be Burnley at the moment. It's just,
it's a great analogy.
It's just,
Only
but
Murray
again,
stepped on that ball. Yeah.
But even again, as poor as both sides were, but Burnley created two absolutely glorious opportunities. Brun Larson scores that. If you go out there, the training pitch tomorrow, and ask him 99 times to miss, I bet he wouldn't. It's shown us, the way he controlled the volley against Wolves the other week. He's a good technician, and I'd expect him to score that with his eyes shut. And Fofana, we've seen, the yin and yang of David Fofana. He's capable of brilliance. He's capable of absolute garbage, and it's just sort of skipped off his shin. And best players in the world have missed those. To be fair, it's just an unfortunate one. But you've got to score those opportunities, and but. Again, it's another absolutely diabolical refereeing decision. Explain to me why the challenge on Wilson Odobert is not a penalty when you've seen what Duran got a penalty for at Villa, and you've seen what the overpriced sprinter got a penalty for at Chelsea, and there's just no rhyme or reason. It's like the match of the day commentary last night was saying he doesn't get the ball, doesn't get anywhere near the ball. He absolutely bulldozes into Odobert. So, and the sort of insinuation on match of the day's commentary was that they didn't feel it was sufficient to overturn the on-field decision. And again, we're in that debate as to what on earth VAR is for. Well, we don't want to re-referee games, and can we just try and get decisions right? If the referee thinks it's not a penalty, which fair enough, that's in his gift, obviously. Can you not have a word in his shell and just say, "Are you convinced about that? You maybe want to have a second look." You don't have to be re-refereed by VAR.
No,
just let the referee
can let Simon Hooper go to the screen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We've got another angle for you. Or we've slowed it down, and just if you're happy with your decision, fine, but just have another look for us. It beggars belief that, and then we get to the moment of madness, and I've spoken a bit about sort of risk and reward with Muric, and I've nailed my colours to the mast. I'm a Muric man when it comes to the Muric Trafford argument, but. You can't absolve him of blame for that. It's that sort of maverick streak in him, really. Who tries to control a ball with nobody behind them but a gaping goal with the sole of their boot, and it just skips off his studs, and no one in their right mind does that.
No,
it's just, and on the back of last week. It's just an absolute gut punch, and I feel for the lad, and you feel for Trafford in certain moments. But we've gone from having. I'll say we'll open this on social media. Name me 2 mistakes Tom Eaton made in his time at Burnley, and 2 mistakes Nick Pope made in his time at Burnley, and I think we'll struggle. But these two have got a catalogue, and it's no foundation for, we've got a sieve-like defence, and we've got goalkeepers who are chucking the ball in the net like the Gary Sprake every week, aren't they? It's just mad.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of fairness, we've been very, very, very critical of James Trafford for less, I have to say. I think I think it's fair to say, there's not been 2 errors perhaps of that ilk that we've seen over the last 2 weeks from Muric, and I think everybody knows that most people on this podcast are Muric fans, and we did several times call quite forcibly for Muric to come in, but it does just kind of open up that debate of why Vincent didn't perhaps trust Arrow Muric, because I think there is that kind of I don't know. I don't know if it's a kind of, lack of being able to concentrate, whether there's a slight arrogance, maverickness about Muric. But we can't, we have to be critical, don't we? For fairness, we have to be critical in the same way as we have slated James Trafford for not coming for balls or not being quick enough off his line. It was a pretty catastrophic error, weren't it?
It was a shocker, and also a shocker for the fact that it was an own goal.
Yeah.
He got something on it. And then he kind of shook his head a little bit like he got some wind and a bit of rain in his eyes, so we'll leave it on that. But Alisson tried it for Liverpool today and screwed it up slightly, whacked an horrific ball at Robertson, who tried to control it, and it ballooned up into the stands. So, it happens to the best of them. But if we kind of look at this risk and reward thing and you look at both sides, who were shocking yesterday, and it was basically a count-up of who done the most shit. And to be fair, Brighton was leading. We're leading that, until Muric came with obviously the monstrous cock-up. But Dunk was misplacing passes and just passing them straight to us, etc. And it was just an absolute shower of shit. And the weather doesn't help. But come on now. And it's this style of play, and this gets back to, we said earlier that things probably won't change too much if we bring in Muric. He might not be the great hope that we thought he could be based on what we're saying about Trafford. He's still the better keeper, but it's like, I think it started with Wolves a little bit, where they worked out how to press us a little bit better. Everton presses a little bit better again, and in the second half, Brighton had worked us out. And once they work us out and start pushing up against us, then whether it's Trafford or Muric, they have to start playing the ball long or wide. And if they're not hitting anybody, it's coming straight back at them. So there's that element of pressure. We've lost Ekdal, haven't we? So, we haven't got the same folks at the back, and Berger doesn't know who he's supposedly hitting it to, and he's hitting it to the wrong place, etc. And it just, it's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those. And I think, we're never going. I think the hard thing to deal with is that this type of football is going to bring something like that into each and every single game. There's going to be some kind of screw up and a mistake. Maybe not as glaring as that, but the expectation of something, some absolute howler or some goal given away happens across the board now in the Premier League. And unfortunately, like we said before, we're not doing it at the other end, which we should have done yesterday. We should have been out of sight by half time. We should have at least been 1 up, if not 2 up, easily, and game's finished. It's over and done with. And that comes down to the way, obviously, there's confidence issues, but I think with the style of play, then that comes down to, again, Vinny, etc., Mr. Company, and the staff. So, it really doesn't matter who you put between the sticks. We're still going to see those kinds of mistakes and those kind of issues. But you've got to give Muric his credit. He's obviously a better passer of the ball. He's better at commanding his box than James Trafford is, and he made an exceptional save towards the end, even though the guy was offside. It was an absolutely brilliant save, and he has made 3 very good saves, over the past few weeks. So, and I would keep him in, and I think Bellamy's absolutely right in what he says, and I know some people have an issue with it, but saying it's our mistake as a team because that's the way we are playing. Yeah. And to back him up, I thought the way that he backed him up was right, because don't hang him out to dry now, or we'll never see him again. And I don't think this is worth finishing his career over. For example, he's got to come to Sheffield United, do your thing. If you screw up again, then it's a good night at the end, isn't it?
Definitely, and we'll come on to some positives in a minute, Justin. But I just wanted to touch on that Bellamy interview because it is quite intriguing. I mean, I quite enjoy listening to Craig Bellamy because he's a bit of a kind of no nonsense type character. But he was right, as Woody just said. He said, "Look, this is the way we're asking him to play." And again, I think a lot of what we see from Trafford is not necessarily Trafford's fault. And I think it's becoming obvious that it is the way we're asking him to play, and we're just not at that level. We're at 75% when you need to be at 100%. And with that comes, we were saying this in the pub before the game, if we were to stay up, and this is before we'd obviously thrown away 2 points, you kind of just wonder whether this kind of maverick, madcap plan of we're going to throw a load of inexperienced kids in, get them to play football they're not capable of playing, because actually next season they're going to be ready to play that. And it's just, and Bellamy, I think, has copped a bit of flack. I don't think he was 100% serious when he said to Crabbers, this 5 games is 15 points. Why can't we win them all? You kind of think to yourself, well, we've not won that many this season, Craig. So, I mean, why would we start now?
Yeah.
But it is kind of, as disappointing as the result is, as disappointing as we were in the final third, it is right. You said right at the start, whilst it's still live, we've got to just keep believing that at some point, either A, we'll get a refereeing decision right, or B, the signs of it clicking will start to click in more than just a couple of places.
We've been saying that for a long time, though, and it's showing no sign whatsoever of clicking, as far as I can see. I mean, that I take your point about him defending the players after the game, but I just thought it really annoyed me that little interview with Bellamy after the game. I mean, we had back passes before we had these sweeper keepers, didn't we? And people, it's not part. It's not. I mean, obviously we have more back passes now than they have to deal. They have to deal with it. But that was just a howler, wasn't it? It was just a mistake. Well, you can't really defend that. He's just fucked it up. He's taken it. I mean, I hope he's not saying that to him behind the scenes. I hope they tattoo in, keep your eye on the ball underneath his eyelids so that he never forgets it. Because, I don't think that's sort of symptomatic of the style of play. The one against Everton, maybe because he's dallying on the ball a little bit, he's looking for the pass and he just gets closed down. But he's just taking his eye. Saturday was just, he took his eye off the ball and let it go under his foot, which is, like I said on the chat before, that's rule number 1 for a goalkeeper, isn't it? Keep your eye on the ball. Don't, I mean, you could argue that, you shouldn't really be, for a defender as well, passing the ball back to a goalkeeper when he's in the middle of his sticks is probably something that hasn't come from the training ground, is it? Normally you'd play it either side of the goal just to avoid any risk of that happening. But also Bellamy was, I mean, he's really cheerful, isn't he? Oh, we're really positive people. We're just going to carry on doing. No, let's not carry on doing what we're doing. Let's change it. Let's change something, because we've been carrying on doing what we're doing. Come, it's all this, whether we win or whether we lose or withdraw. I don't, we just move on to the next game and just, we believe in what we're doing. We're going, well, it's not bringing the points, is it? It's not bringing the results. And as I said before, while he was giving that interview, there was sort of 18,000 people walking out of the ground in the pissing rain, having paid good money to watch that nonsense. And he's coming all happy, clappy, and cheerful on the interview after the game. It's a bit of an insult, actually, really, when you think about it, to the fans who are backing the side week in, week out, for them to. And it also smacked a little bit of the same sort of complacency that you see in the play. If he's patting Muric on the back and saying, "Never mind, son, we'll have another go next week," then what message does that send to the players? And it wasn't just Muric who was complacent. There was one point just before that happened when there were 3 of them stood in the penalty area and Berger sort of passed it to nobody and nearly gave him another opportunity. Yeah. So there's a level of complacency that I don't understand. Who thinks that performance was the performance of a side that knew it had to win to give itself an opportunity to stay in the Premier League? Where is the evidence that there's intensity and fight? Because I didn't see any. I didn't, especially in the second half, it was like strolling around like it was some sort of pre-season friendly part of the time. And if Bellamy, if Craig Bellamy and Vincent Kompany are projecting that kind of attitude that he showed in the post-match interview, then it's no wonder they've not got any intensity, is it? I'm sure they're not on the training ground, but it doesn't send the right message, I don't think.
If you see Cullen directly, there's an angle when the ball rolls under Muric's boot and Cullen turns and just goes, like just shows his disgust with his back to Muric. So, I mean, if we're sort of saying, if we think if they're all like sort of Bellamy's mindset, Cullen would have turned to Muric and sort of clapped him and said, "Head up, Arrow, forget about it." But he showed his disgust. He wasn't happy at all. It was just you could read into his mind. He's just thinking, not fucking again. Jesus wept. Yeah. But it's like Bellamy's. It's almost like a development. We're not here to watch development football where results don't matter, and you produce a few players for the first team sort of thing, and everyone's happy. Like Justin said, it's people have spent bloody good money for season tickets. And the ones, the hardy souls that do it every week, spending bloody God knows how much, up and down the country, all the hours they put in, reporting to work a couple of hours after landing back from bloody wherever, just magnificent support. And they, like I say, they're being treated by this, where it's almost like, and I wouldn't mind if we were seeing signs of development, but I think we'll end the season none the wiser. If you look at last season, and even when they didn't perform well, and again, admittedly, it's a lesser level, and for some people it was a uncharacteristically poor season all round, standard of the Championship. But there was a sort of spirit there when things weren't going to plan, and the team weren't performing like at Blackburn when they won the league. Let's have it right. They were second best, and young Adam Wharton, who's just produced a masterclass at Anfield, by the way, is bossing things. And we bring on Jack Cork, and but again, it wasn't. We could have conceded in the last minute at Blackburn. Almost give away a penalty, etc. But it's at least we knew how we were going to play. And we know we're going to try and pass the thing around still, but there seems to me to be less sort of intent, less cohesion, less sort of, I don't know. The style seems to have just been thrown out, like with the majority of last season's side. And like I said, we've debated it a few times, without going into it in too much detail. But it remains to be seen how many of these players will be here next season anyway. So if it has been a season of development, if half of the players leave, then it's been thoroughly pointless in any case, hasn't it? So,
Woody, just one thing that I thought when I was again walking up to Finsley Gate in the pissing rain without a proper coat on yesterday, I actually thought yesterday that the fitness levels really started to tell, and I wonder whether some of that, and one of my biggest gripes again on Saturday was the lack of intensity. Even at the end when we got a free kick deep into injury time, it's the last chance, and we spend, everyone's saying just calm down, we'll set it up, and then we just pump it into Verbruggen's hand, and Hooper's going to blow the there's no intensity, and I just wonder whether the style of football we're being asked to play, because we are decent or have been decent in first halves, against Everton, decent first half, better side. Saturday against Brighton, better side. Wolves, better side. We drop off a cliff from an intensity point of view early in the second half. And I wonder whether, thinking back to the fact that we were back in pre-season training before the season had even ended, whether that is now starting to come and bite us on the arse, because I completely get what Chris said in terms of, there isn't that same cohesion, and I wonder whether that cohesion is not there. Because we're playing players in wrong positions, and we'll come on to the madness that is Foster out wide and Audebert in the middle. Audebert in the middle, when we put him out wide, he puts in 2 or 3 fantastic crossers for those chances we've already talked about. But I wonder whether fitness comes into it, and whether there is a, we are just, it gets to 75 minutes and we look knackered. I mean, Foster was out on his feet yesterday. Yeah. Taylor had come on and looked knackered. Obviously, Ekdal back after 2 months not playing. I just wonder whether you think fitness is starting to take its toll a little bit.
I think it was interesting what De Zerbi said in his interview, that he said that Brighton weren't match fit and up to it, and they look fitter than us.
Yeah.
To be fair, especially second half. So I think it probably, from his assessment, yes. And I think some of the little things that you've said there is, I mean, I've never known a side piss about with its fullbacks so much. Why the devil are we taking a fullback off at half time? He's either fit or he's not fit, and we're swapping Taylor and Vitinho around, and it's like, what? And it's like, is this a fitness thing? You know, are we picking up these knocks? Are we playing people at 70%? Have we played too many? You know, have there been too many games in this little 2-week period and it's catching up with us? And I know we've got some injuries, etc. But it still seemed quite shocking that we didn't have anybody to bring on at centre half yesterday. That kind of, I don't know. It just seems slightly odd. But yes, I think I take your point with regards to fitness levels. But you can also see, like, after the penalty a little bit, after that kind of got turned down, there seems to be incidents in matches where it seems to take a little bit of a sting out of a few of them, you know, on that level of intensity. Because we did have a good intensity up until the penalty. And it was still a great move. That's the best bit of football that we've played this year.
Yeah, super.
You know, up to that goal. It was fantastic. And that showed us what they've got. But we've seen far too little of that. And then after that, that was it. Like you said, everybody's blowing out their arses. And, you know, Eds seemed to be going a little bit, especially second half. And, yeah, I would argue that free kick right at the end by Muric was worse than his step over. Just to balloon it at that point, aimlessly into wind, and then he blows, was just seemed to sum up the game for me. Fucking pointless. You know, yeah. So I think there's a fitness level. I think there's obviously a mentality level. It's obviously it's taken its toll on us this season and those players. And I don't think it takes too much for them to get a little bit down, even though they don't always show it. You can sometimes see it and the levels drop off a bit. So I think it will be a good thing to get this season over with wherever we are next year.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we could talk about a lot more in terms of negatives. Mike Trezor coming on, having not been in a match day squad not getting any action for the best part of 2 months, and expected to turn it around in the wind, the rain. New haircut for Magic Mike, that looked pretty nice. Or you know, Assignon's theatrics, which wind me up, absolutely constantly wind me up. I know he gets caught just before, just after half time, I think it is, but. Justin, I thought there were a couple of positives. I think Esteve, I thought he's just growing into such a, fantastic centre half. And the returning Ekdal, I thought actually at the back, aside from, they both look good, didn't they? So there are positives, Justin, but like Woody said, we see the positives in such small pockets. We've not probably seen 90 minutes worth of kind of good stuff collectively all season, have we?
No, well, that's the problem, isn't it? We can't put a performance together for 90 minutes. But I think you're absolutely right. I think those two in the centre of defence were our best two players. Maybe Odegaard side showed a little bit, like particularly when he was out wide, like you said. So there are, you can take positives out of any game, can't you? You can look at it and say, well, that player or this player performed well in this particular game, or for spells of this particular game. But in the end of the day, it doesn't matter, does it? You've got to do it overnight. Every single player on the pitch has got to do it for 90 minutes in the Premier League. Otherwise, you get punished for it. Against a better side yesterday, we would have lost that game. But again, I mean, this is the other frustrating thing about it, as Woody alluded to there. It could have been 3-0 at half time. It could have been. If that penalty had been given, we could have been 3-0 up and playing against 10 men for the second half. And the margins are very. This is what we were talking about the other day. Well, the company was saying, the margins are. Brun Larson misses that by not much. Another inch of his leg stretched out for Fofana, and he might get a bit more on that, and that goes in. The referee, has some common sense and gives a penalty and sends that guy off, and it's a completely different game, completely different environment. So yeah, the positives are there, but we're sort of. I don't know whether we're 80% there or 75% there, but that is what I will take away most of as being the most frustrating thing of this season. I think we've been absolutely dicked by the refereeing and the VAR. I think Vincent's absolutely spot on. The standard of refereeing has been absolutely atrocious, and we've been on the wrong end of some really awful decisions, and it has cost us a large number of points over the course of the season. And I think without that, it might have been a slightly different story. But we've been quite close in a lot of games, and we just haven't managed to get over the line. And that is what I'm going to take away. And, yesterday was a the season in microcosm, wasn't it? Play quite well, miss the chances, make stupid mistakes. You could say that about so many of the games where we've dropped points that it's not even funny anymore.
Yeah. And Chris, I think it's already on up the Clarets. I think it's 123 easy as BFC said. I think it's 25 points dropped from winning positions. And I think somebody else said it's 15 points lost from perceived refereeing errors. I mean, you're going to use the word perceived because obviously if they're not given, they're not. But we're talking about errors where even Chris Sutton says, I don't know why he's given that, the penalty at Chelsea, for instance. But, and there's obviously some crossover. I'm not saying we've missed out on 40 points and we should be, in Champions League spots. But that refereeing, and I know we were going to talk about positives and we've kind of done that. Positives are done, part of them. But it is that kind of, we don't want to be all Matt Letizia and conspiracy theory about it, but it begins to feel
makes you think though, doesn't it? Makes you think.
Makes you think though, doesn't it?
It was raining. It was raining again earlier.
It's almost like they ordered it.
But
it does though, doesn't it? It kind of makes you think there's, they don't want little old Burnley in the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't sort of go down that route at all. I mean, I think there's a lot of clubs. I know like Gary O'Neill at Wolves is particularly peeved with the officials at the moment, and Nuno at Forest, and Forest have had some absolute shockers against them this season. I haven't seen all the games. I remember the Bolly sending off earlier this season against Bournemouth, which just begging belief. And Everton have had a few, sort of travesties, refereeing travesties, etc. And everyone moans about lack of penalties, but like I say, the maddening thing is, you look at the John Duran one at Villa, and you look at Mudryk at Chelsea. They're tickled, the pair of them, and the referees give it. And this one, Odegaard's got knocked into next week. He's not got a toe on the ball, or poked it away, or he's nowhere near the ball. So we'll end up with one of those. I was listening to Ryan Lowe at Preston. He said, they've had a few letters in the Championship, but they don't give you points back, do they? We've got 20 odd points. Now, if we add in these 5 letters from referees, that gives us 25 points. It don't work like that. It doesn't appease you or anything. But I do feel. There is this pressure now, isn't there? Referees are sort of some of them are scared to make decisions, thinking that they might get bailed out by VAR, and some of them give the decision, and VAR are reticent to, like as we said before, re-referee the games and tell the referee he's wrong. Ultimately, it's been brought in so we get the right decision. Otherwise, what's the point having it? It's just infuriating. But there are instances where, I say the mentality of it's a young side, and they haven't got that mentality that Sean Dyche's teams had, that when they got in front, you knew when Sean Dyche's teams got in front that more often than not, they were going to see it out. And with this lot, you 2-0 up at West Ham and thinking, probably lose this still. Mm-hmm. And it can only, in that sense, I think that can only do them good moving forward, and it's but keep getting those hits, be it conceding a goal, not getting a decision. I don't care who you are. If you're getting hit after hit after hit, it tells, and it's ultimately that's what's happened. But no, the standard of refereeing, it's a decision. It's a conversation for the whole Premier League. So I think it's been absolutely abysmal across the board.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's end on something of a positive. I mean, it's not a positive for us, obviously, but well, a couple of positives. We're recording this on Sunday. And it was absolutely hilarious, was it not, to see Clippity Klopp and Arteta's season going to free fall, both sides beating at home, Liverpool by Crystal Palace, and Arsenal by a very, very good-looking Villa side. I have to say that our kind of performance at Villa Park does kind of stand up to a test, really, because they look fantastic. They were 2-0 winners at the Emirates. But Woody, the other kind of football news from elsewhere is Bayer Leverkusen becoming the first time winners of the Bundesliga since Wolfsburg, I think it was, almost 2 decades ago, featuring one of our favourite players from last year, Mr. Nathan Tella. I mean, his record, I can't actually recall it, but I think he's only lost 3 games of football in 2 seasons. And he's won a second-tier championship in this country, and now he's a Bundesliga winner. I know it's kind of sliding doors moments and what ifs, but you do sometimes look at the way we've played and just think he could have made a bit of a difference, couldn't he?
Of course he could. Of course he could. I mean, it should be football 101, shouldn't it? If you come up, try and keep the nugget and the consensus of that squad that you've just had. Yeah. Keep the guys who got you up and try and keep that momentum, and it might get you through a handful of games at the beginning of the season. And had we done that and had that happened like it did in 2000, 2009, 2010, etc., we'd have been fine. We'd have been clear now. We'd have been all right. So there you go. And when we dissect this properly, we're going to be able to point all these little things out and etc. But yeah, I've just seen the clip of everybody at Bayer Leverkusen. The whole ground just seemed to do a York. It looked very impressive. It really did. And so good lad. At least somebody's winning something from that squad last year. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. And Justin, I mean, it's brilliant to see. I mean, I do quite like German football, but it was one of them games where kind of I switched over after Villa had gone 2-0. So the 5th goal, then there's a pitch invasion. There's still injury time in about a minute and a half, but the referee just thinks there's 30,000 people on the pitch. We ain't getting all of these. You can hear the kind of German Dominic Walker over the tannoy asking people to leave the field and all of this. But it was, when we talked about, I mean, you talked about kind of, or Christy, I can't remember which one. It was only about half an hour ago. So it's like the best league in the world and the kind of atmosphere and things like that. I mean, we don't really have a patch on some of these teams abroad, do we? I mean, fair play to Leverkusen, fairy tale for them, first time winners.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, what a story that is for them to break that sort of dominance of the top 2 there. It's just amazing, isn't it? And for somebody we've got an interest in to be playing a part in it, I think it's wonderful. And you're right. I mean, they do seem somehow, I don't know how they do it, but they do seem to generate an incredible atmosphere in those grounds in the Bundesliga. And maybe it's the drummer. Maybe that's what we need. We need to. No, let's not go down that road. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for the club. It's brilliant for Nathan Tella to be involved in that. I wish he was still playing for us. I've quite a lot this season. You see Burnley when they are on top and dominating games, they tend to get themselves into good situations without turning those situations into chances. And I think Teller's one of those players who might have made a difference in that regard because he was quite direct, wasn't he? Sometimes you're shouting at them, just try and score a goal. Never mind just passing it from side to side all the time. Well, Nathan Tella was one of those players last season who was always trying to score a goal, and we could have done with a touch of that this season. And with players like him still at the club, I'm not sure we would be in the mess we're in now. But, congratulations to him and his club. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and Chris, we kind of wish the free Nathan Tella campaign had been a little bit more successful, don't we? I mean, our early forays into innovative, groundbreaking social media campaigns, it all fell a bit flat.
The thing was, I mean, it wasn't a slight on Nathan Tella at all, but there was no evidence to suggest he would be what Burnley required in the Premier League, because he'd never really had an opportunity.
No, that's true.
And Southampton have egg on their face for not playing him in, a season they got relegated. They decided he was surplus to requirements. And, well, Xabi Alonso, he's only been there 18 months, and whoever it was that scouted him, they've seen enough in him. And he's a record. I think he's about 1 in 4. I think he's got 5 goals in 20 or something like that. But it was magnificent against Bayern Munich, and what people thought was a pivotal game the other week that wasn't anything of the sort. They just absolutely countered to the title, haven't they? But and the great thing is he's only 24 still. But it's like Justice, that enthusiasm. He always played with a smile on his face, and it was infectious. He brought that out of the crowd. He brought that out of his teammates. He was direct. Just absolute diamond of a kid. And but I mean, you talk about the atmospheres and stuff. I've been to Genoa a couple of times. I think I paid €6 the first time I went in 2018, and we went back a couple of years ago when it was about €15 against Juventus on a Friday night. And Burnley have tried with the light show and the music and all that, and Genoa had that sort of thing. But ultimately, they've got one of the stands at Genoa is just populated by absolute mentalists. Is all I can describe it.
That's what we need, isn't it? That's what we need.
They've got the flares, and they do have the drum. They do have the drums, but they sing for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just we've all been to games where it feels like you've sung for that amount of time and you've made a lot of noise, but it's never been a patch on Europe. And who knows what the answer, because we've tried everything that they've tried, only apart from cheaper tickets.
Yeah, I think what we need, we've never had a focal point for the mentalists, as Chris perhaps politically incorrectly describes them. Since we lost alongside up against that no man's land used to be where all the I'm doing air quotes now, mentalists, because I'm not sure that's the right word for it, where they all used to go and they used to sing for, and we need the club to identify a place in the stadium where the singers are going to go. The people who, I mean, at the moment, the cricket field stand tries to get things going a little bit, but there's not enough of them there, is there? It needs to be a much more concentrated, much more sort of enthusiastic. This is where the source of the atmosphere comes. And we need to start winning a few games as well. But I think we haven't had that focal point and we do need it. I mentioned this on our chat the other day. I seem to remember that the club promised they were going to have safe standing in before the end of this season. And we've only got 2 games left, so they need to get a move on with that a little bit, don't they? Don't know where they're going to do it. I've not seen any sort of sign of it so far.
I think it was in the fan zone during the last game when the roof was coming in. What they didn't tell you is the safe standing is in view of a television. As we were talking, we were talking before we came on, and we will just end on this, but a hilarious bit of half-time entertainment yesterday. They brought 3 heroes from the Orient game, Phil Malley, Phil Kavanagh, and Ashley Hoskins on. Didn't have time to chat to them, and over the tannoy you could just hear, that's it, just wave. And I kind of wonder whether Nathan Tella is going to be treated to the same treatment in 20 years at Bayer Leverkusen. Brought out in front of an adoring crowd to be told, that's it, there's no time, just wave. before hobbling off again. So yeah, I think everything. I know we've been very critical of the club and the fan experience and things like that, but that kind of took the biscuit, I think, for me on Saturday. It kind of summed up our season, that we'd overrun with everything else, and we couldn't. There was no context to why these players were coming out, but there we go. We will be back on Friday with the normal episode, looking ahead to the away game at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United, coming up on Saturday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the week. It's not even started yet, but enjoy the week. And up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson.